Hey guys, this is your host of Lit Literature, JP, aka The Demon, and we are excited to release episode 14, our first episode in the Oathbringer series, especially because it's our first, as you may be able to tell, live video recording episode. We're looking forward to it. We are discussing part 1 of Oathbringer in this, and yeah, please enjoy. We're getting better every episode. And again, you can find us on Lyket.net, Lyket, litliterature.com. All social media at litliterature1, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, etc. And if you want to support some of our ongoing growth, we have a Patreon account at Lit Literature. So take a look for our logo. Without further ado, cheers. We're good. And we're good everywhere. So.
Oh, hey, Manny.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark. Okay.
I didn't realize that.
I had to copy it. All right. And we're live.
Sweet.
Again. And we're live again, back with Lit Literature. This again is the Shoutouts. Excited to be back and talk about Oathbringer for the first time. This is pretty awesome. We're excited. Again, this is your host, JP, aka The Demon, and we have video going, and we also have the captain coming from the Shattered Plains. Go ahead and give yourself an intro, man.
Howdy, everyone. I am just conspicuously walking out of a dark alley in Urithiru, whistling, not guilty whatsoever.
Right across from me.
Manny, the dream. Eam the dream.
Eam the dream.
Okay.
Got Ben, the hitman, here for another round.
Josh the cherry. Brett the director.
All right. That's all of us. And again, you can find us on Lyket.net, Lyket. Like it.
Yeah.
That's going to be our
Please
website.
stay tuned for an hour commercial-free session.
And right now we only have one project on there. Obviously it's Lit Literature, but we're going to have more in the future. So check it out. And without further ado, I think we could just get straight into it.
Get straight into it.
So let's do a
That's
quick
what she
cheers,
said.
though, because it's been a
Cheers.
while.
Cheers.
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 Cheers. Okay.
To Brandon
So,
Sanderson.
Yeah, to Brandon Sanderson for providing
This is liquor.
Is that the Horn Eater stuff, Manny?
Yes.
Horn
This is
eater.
yeah.
Horn
It's
Eater
like hot
lager.
chocolate.
This is Horn Eater White or what is it?
Yeah, the white.
Okay, so first things first, before we get straight into the preludes or interludes or whatever the hell they're called, prologues, we have to talk quite bit, or just at least a little bit, about Edge Dancer.
Yes.
So it was a novella that was released that takes place in between books 2 and 3, Words of Radiance and the Oathbringer, and some of us read it to make sure that we had the information, and I think it was awesome. So if you haven't read it, I recommend you do. We follow Lift on her adventure.
Spoiler alerts for those of you
That's
who
true.
have not read it.
But then again, you are listening to this, so it's your own fault because all of this is spoiler for
I
part
didn't read
1.
it, so don't feel bad.
So anyway, Lift, she is on her adventure to save people like her because she knows what she calls the dark.
The darkness.
The darkness.
The darkness, yes.
Niall, the Herald of Justice, is still wandering around in his insanity, killing off future Radiance. So, to keep it short, she saves this future Radiant, and also she runs into our buddy Zeth, who is now an acolyte of the Herald of Justice.
Yes.
And Zeth also thinks that Niall's insane, which is funny.
Yes,
And-
because I thought he was insane.
yeah, exactly. It seems like in Zeth's rebirth, he's realizing his mistakes. And then Lift does some pretty badass stuff, but in the end, she may have changed Niall's opinion about the desolations. So that's all you need to know without, getting into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
So besides that, we got to jump straight in, and the first thing that we get to read in this sweet book.
Well, one thing on Edge Dancer I wanted
Oh,
to
go ahead.
talk
Yeah,
about
let's
really
do
quick
Edge
was
Dancer a
just
little more.
really quick just the idea that I thought was kind of cool about we kind of get the idea that the Spren are sent from somewhere.
At least some of them
to
are.
find, yeah. So Windle, her Spren was sent.
Best name for a Spren ever. Love him.
I like Pattern, but Windle is a good name.
But Wendell, I just
Nice.
imagine with like a monocle, like
Yeah.
an old man.
And he's always complaining about his artwork or his creations, his garden.
And I thought it was also really interesting that one of the other candidates for him, he's like, oh, why didn't they send me to the shoemaker? So the shoemaker that Darkness killed was another one of his candidates. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And I wonder
Oh,
if you
that's really
guys
interesting, yeah.
think that that has any implications coming up, or if that's just kind of like an intro to something that we haven't really figured out the importance of.
It may mean that old man would have been the same
Exactly.
type of radiant as Lift is.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
makes me wonder that if the Darkness knew that, and if that's why he was killed, because he was a candidate, and somehow he found out.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Well,
he
he
like-
did.
Well, we knew he had a Spren. We don't know much about the Spren.
We don't know what level
but-
he was at, what
yeah.
type of spray.
He
If he
definitely
spoke
was
any
going
of
to
the
be
words-
a radiant.
Yeah, he
and
would've
he
been
could heal, just like Lift has kind of one of her abilities is to heal.
Oh, just like
So he's obviously either the same as Lift, an Edge Dancer, or the same as Renarin. No,
Renarin.
Renarin could heal too. Yeah.
Because each order gets one of the powers.
They cross
They
over,
cross
yeah.
over to two of the orders.
And we know the Herald of Justice, his posse. I can't remember what their group's called now. I'm having a total brain freeze. Jesus. Oh god.
Oh, well, we'll come back to
Manny
that.
fact
Anyways.
Yeah.
the Herald of what?
Justice. What was their group called again?
What was their
Do you
group
remember,
called?
Captain? I'm having a total.
I do not recall that. No, I don't have it in
Their
my
order.
notes.
But anyway, whatever it is.
Their order though, they share one of the powers that Windrunners have, because they can push away from gravity.
Right.
They
Lashings.
fly. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting, but they don't have both. So kind of.
Yeah, they don't
interesting.
have all the lashings
Yeah, they
or
don't
whatever,
have.
all the powers.
They can. I think they can push, but I don't think they could adhere. We don't know how they all work.
Yeah.
Except that we know Dalinar has some interesting abilities too.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that.
Do you think that maybe, like you guys talking about this and the Spren and stuff, they go more in depth into it? He's kind of getting us prepared for getting the perspective of a Spren this time, because we haven't really gone into that part of the story at all.
I
Possibly.
think they may be.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
I think that'd be really cool. I'd like to have more perspective from some of the Sprens because they're really interesting.
Yeah.
All of the Sprens so far that we've met are super interesting.
So,
Pattern being the best by far.
Manny, if you don't mind too, fact check for us sometime throughout the podcast what the order of radiance that the Justice folks, the Herald of Justice,
Doing
is.
that right now.
Cool.
Okay, so I think are we okay to move on from Edge Dancer?
Yes.
I wanted to get your opinion on something. So the first thing when we open the book is Gavilar. We start with a past, 5 years ago before Gavilar died. Eshonai runs into Gavilar before the feast, and Gavilar, we kind of find out he's working with Teravingian. He's got his posse of their secret group trying to bring the Desolations or the gods back, and he literally tells Eshonai that, and that leads to his assassination.
Right.
She also mentions they were surprised about slaves, and they even tried to buy a slave as an experiment. That slave happened to be Zeth,
Right.
which is, whoa, that's kind of crazy. So that was almost an accident. But what do you guys think about Gavilar wanting to bring, literally, he's in my mind, it's so short-sighted. He's literally trying to bring back the Desolations to make sure there's a common enemy. This is kind of a real strategy that people use in modern politics, but to make sure there's a common enemy, to make sure that the High Princes and maybe everyone else in the world,
The continent
stay
stays together.
Right.
after his, which is, I guess he's trying to learn from the
The
Sunmaker. Yeah, but at the same time, boy, that seems short-sighted as hell.
Yeah, to me
Yeah.
it seems very, very short-sighted. Not a good idea. I don't think that uniting the kingdoms, like, you should unite the kingdoms because something legit. You shouldn't create a terrible situation just to unite.
I think
Order
we're
of
gonna learn-
Skybreakers?
Skybreakers. Thank you.
I think we're going to learn more of that. I honestly don't think that was his ultimate goal, particularly because it's so contrasted with everything that's in the Way of Kings. And we all know that he was kind of moving towards the whole Way of Kings
He was
And
starting to. but-
he was really talking about a lot. So I think that there's something else there that they kind of want you to think that this is the reason. It was
Right.
because they talk about the Sunmaker and how his after he conquered all of Alethi, they just immediately disbanded as soon as he died and his kids went to war. But I think they kind of hint towards like making you think that, but it's going to be something
Yeah.
else. I think especially being involved with Amaram and Teravingian, and I think there's
But
something.
those are two different groups.
No, actually, Amaran, Teravingian. Teravingian now has his own group, the Diagram.
Yeah.
But before, he was part of Gavilar's group
He was.
before the Diagram. Before
Yeah.
the Diagram came to fruition.
This-
And Amaran was part of that group as well.
I thought
The Brothers of something.
Amaran was
Did you check that too, Manny?
he was part of the church group that wants to bring control back to the church.
That's the same group that Gavilar was part of as well.
Really?
But Gavilar's motives, I think, were a little different than Amaran's. And Teravingian was there maybe for slightly different motives, but the goal was to bring back the Desolations,
Well,
which would also
yeah.
bring back the Heralds
But
/ Radiance.
the
Yeah.
the difference between the groups was, I think, the king wanted to put the power under him, the church wanted the power,
That could
and
be.
then
But they were allies.
what's
all
his
the same.
name? Teravingian.
Teravingian, yeah.
Thinks he should be the ruler. So those are like the heads of the groups, and
Right.
but
Might have been some fracturing going on soon,
Right.
but
it might have been after the king died they fractured.
could be. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Supposedly they were good friends.
Yeah, this is kind of a theme that we're going to see a lot of in this book. The idea of politicians perpetuating their own problems or creating problems for their kingdoms is something that we're going to see a lot of throughout Oathbringer. Kind of the idea that every politician has blood on their hands is something that we're going to see a lot of with Dalinar's flashbacks. So everyone can look forward to that.
And our awesome fact checker, Manny, just found out that their group was called the Sons of Honor.
Oh.
Awesome. So we've
That's
got
cool.
the Ghost Bloods, the Sons of Honor, and we also have Niall's group, the
Stormbreakers.
not Stormbreakers, Skybreakers.
Skybreakers.
But they're kind of all three groups, but really the Skybreakers is an order of the Radiance as well.
Yeah.
But Niall's so insane, he's been running around with his group for a while. So, anyway,
But it makes me wonder if his people, because he has a group, like a following,
yeah.
and one of them got arrested, if they share the link that Vig 4 does with
That's an
his
interesting.
name?
That's an
Kalinin.
interesting concept.
Kalinin.
So, I think based on what I've read so far in part 1, we're going to learn a lot about how the Orders of Radiance actually work. Because remember, in book 1, when Dalinar's first having his visions, and he's fighting the black tar dogs with a poker.
Which
And
we come.
Exactly. We'll talk about those tar dogs, which seems kind of interesting later. But he's fighting these black tar dogs with the poker, and the Radiant comes down, and the Radiant invites him. We need people. So there may be a way for Radiance to kind of recruit and military-wise.
Well, we
develop
already know
these-
that because of Kalinin and Bridge 4.
But we know that for Windrunners. But we also don't know what's happening to those guys. Is it just Kalinin? Is it, we don't know. Could they be developing their own? That's what we get to. I think we're going to get to learn. So, but anyway, I just want to bring that up. So awesome. We keep it in the back of our mind. And the next thing, Dalinar's, we kind of go back to Urithiru, and Dalinar's working with the Stormfather to revisit his visions, and he's reanalyzing them, which I think is actually pretty smart from his different perspective. And now the Stormfather could put him wherever he wants, and he gets up close and personal and sees the quote unquote champion of Odium with 9 shadows. And clearly armor. It's like an armored thing.
Yeah. Also, he radiates that black stormlight. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Yeah.
So we still haven't figured out what that is.
And it doesn't in
Niles have it.
in Edge Dancer, and actually at the end of the second book, Words of Radiance, the sword that Niall gives Zeth kind of has this black smoke that comes off of it as well. But I wonder if that's a little bit of crossover from some of Brandon Sanderson's stuff because of because Zeth kind of talks to his sword a little bit in Edge Dancer, and Zyle, the jaded swordsman who's now a priest in Dalinar's camp, commented in the previous books about, oh, I miss having that in my head. And I was wondering if maybe they were synced. I don't know that for fact, fans, but just throwing it out there. You guys probably know more than me. But I don't know. Other than that, we go straight into finding Sadeas's body.
Yes.
Finally. So good old Adolin left this guy here. Nobody, because of the way that Urithiru is completely unexplored and cavernous, literally, like just a maze. Nobody found him for a long time.
Yeah.
Till the Bridgeman did.
I actually have a funny little side story. While I was reading this, because it's been so long, because we took some time off for the holidays and stuff like that, because it's been so long, I read that and I was like, oh shoot, Sadeas is dead. And then it wasn't for 5 minutes, and I'm just like, oh wait, we already knew that.
Well, I knew we knew that, but then I was like, oh my god, I totally forgot.
I completely
killed
forgot,
this bastard.
Yeah, stabbed him through the eye. So that was kind of funny. And then, of course, we find out Dalinar's little group freaks out. They stop the Bridgemen from fighting Sadeas's camp.
Right.
And they're all worried about how this looks for Dalinar. But, I mean, the reality is, and I think it's kind of clear in the book, that nobody thinks that Dalinar did it, but maybe
Not directly.
directly.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah, she pretty much implies that one of them, his men, did it
Right.
to make it easier for Dalinar.
And she definitely seems to agree with Adelin's response that he gave her about why would he. She definitely seemed to kind of hear
Are
that.
you talking about his wife?
Yeah.
That bitch.
But she
Yole.
definitely seemed to kind of believe him and be like, that makes sense. Which
She-
is kind of interesting
She had the
considering
same thought already.
Yeah. But I think that's super interesting that the person telling her that is the one that killed him.
Right. One
That is
important thing to note
Adolin's heartless.
is that when Sadeas's corpse is discovered, Dalinar puts Adolin himself in charge of finding the killer,
Yeah.
which is pretty ironic.
it's also amazing if you're Adolin.
I know.
He's so troubled by it.
I know.
Yeah, I'm sure
You know what?
he does not like that.
I don't think he's that troubled until the second body shows up.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I think he's like, oh, sweet. Well, that prick needed to die anyway.
Yeah.
He's honestly, I feel like I was worried about when we got done with the second book. I'm like, oh God, what if Adolin starts to go up, gets all messed up, and goes down this terrible path, and then you get to Adolin, and he's pretty much just like, yeah, the guy needed to die. I mean, he didn't cheap shot him. I mean, they fought hand in hand for a while. Neither of them called their sharp blade because they knew
It's
6
too
feet
close.
of blade.
I mean,
yeah.
it does bother me a little bit that he doesn't seem to be troubled by it being a little bit of a betrayal to Dalinar, to his dad. But
I think that Adolin is, first of all, he's still young.
yeah.
Second of all, he really thinks that Sadeas was... I mean, he remembers his men dying. I mean, think about you in that perspective when Sadeas literally set the trap up to kill them.
Yeah.
To be honest, I wouldn't be that bothered by it either. And if my dad was so honorable that he was, wanted me not to do it and blah, blah,
For the
myself.
record, too, Sadeas told Adolin himself, "I'm going to take your dad down now that I'm here in Urithiru." So
Yeah.
he
That's
basically
true.
provoked him. He provoked the shit out of him.
The funny thing is he thought he was safe provoking him because
Yeah.
of how many times he tried to provoke him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I got a different feeling from the book. I thought he was not remorseful, but worried and felt bad because he's always compared to his father.
Yeah.
And his father, you're such a good son, not like me at all. And he's like, oh my god, I can't believe you say that right after I kill this guy.
right.
Yeah, but I
I'm more like you didn't
agree.
think.
But I mean, you're gonna have some guilt for that. But I don't really think it bothered him that much. I think he was kind of just like, I'm gonna go sit out at the field and.
I think it
about a
really
little
started
bit.
bothering him once he was in charge of the investigation.
Yeah,
Because then,
that could be true.
He had to
Still-
continue with the lie.
yeah.
Yeah, I
'Cause
still.
Then
I
he's just
still
being
think
pushed into it every day in
it's
his
that
face.
second body.
I
more
also
than
feel
anything else.
I feel like the fact, just the idea of him having to now explain the second body, just the logistics of being able to get people to be serious or truthful about the second body, because that's an actual concern. I think the stress of just the situation is kind of maybe getting to him a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I get people onto this second body without them linking it to the first one? And it's like,
Well, luckily
know.
for him, Shallan solves that problem later.
yeah,
Shallan is a boss ass bitch.
she is.
Even
But
though I think she's
that
cracking
he
a
is.
little, though.
No,
so-
I think she's cracking major, not a little. I agree with Ben. I got the same feeling that towards later, as you get more and more into the book, you start to think that Adolin is feeling more and more bad about it.
Right.
Like he's totally going through it, especially when Shallan's talking to him, like, "Oh, you're trying to be something that your dad is proud of. Like he couldn't have asked for a better son." And he's
Right.
like,
I know.
Like,
It's
they-
almost like everybody around him knows exactly what to say to make him feel like shit about what
And every
happened.
single time any other character is mentioning they seeing him or like their perspective of how he looks, he
Yeah.
looks gloomy.
Yeah.
I have a Brett bet.
Okay.
Here's what I think. Number one, actually, it's kind of two parts. You can decide if you want to split it or not, and it may depend on your answers.
Okay.
So part one is how much will Adolin's murder of Sadeas impact him as conscious starts to catch up to him?
Mm-hmm.
And you could say, I think you probably need to say a lot or a little. I don't
Okay.
really know if it'll be an in-between, right?
Right.
It seems like it'd be that. I guess you could say
Right.
in between if you want to, but I think we should probably go a lot or a little and just put our cards in with the lever that most fits what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, is Adolin going to become a Radiant?
Ooh.
I have a theory about that.
I'm going to lead. I'm going to lead this. I think it will impact him a little,
Okay.
not a lot, and I think he will become a Radiant.
Are you saying just the one death or both deaths, or being in charge of the investigation?
I think
Just
the
the Duchess
murder.
Just the fact that
Murder.
he killed.
The murder.
Just
And
the
that's everything though, because he murdered him and now he's in part of the investigation and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it kind of goes hand
Chain
in hand.
effect. But it really comes down to the murder itself somehow impacting him. And I think a little, but not a lot. And I think he becomes a Radiant of some group that we don't know about yet.
Are you saying
Cool.
just emotionally, or like it'll come back to haunt him? Like people are gonna
Yes.
find out.
Consequences or just like how it will play on him?
Because if it impacts him emotionally, it will impact how he's responding in the story, or the consequences could come back to get him.
And,
Because
like-
if it's emotionally, I guarantee you we'll be reading it and he'll be making decisions that we hate.
Yeah.
I think that's a good bet. I think that's a
Okay.
good bet. I've got the record book ready.
All right.
Oh, I'm in charge of that? I was writing it down. Like,
Oh yeah.
Manny.
No, you're just a fact checker, bro.
You can be both. You can have double records and cross-check them.
Cross check them.
Right.
Make sure you guys aren't lying.
All right. So I wrote it down, and I'm saying it will impact him a little, not a lot. But you can't say it'll be no impact, but a little, not a lot, and he will become a Radiant.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll go, I guess. I think it'll have a big impact later. I think people are gonna find out, and it's gonna very much damage Diana's cause as leader.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I want him to become a Radiant, but I don't think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna get that sword Diana has tucked away, Seth's old sword, and he's gonna use that to be like a Radiant.
Mm-hmm.
But
Ah,
You
he'll have,
want
he'll have a Herald sword.
Yeah.
Ah.
So, Ben, yes or no on the Radiant?
I said no.
No,
But he's
okay.
gonna get Seth's sword, so he's kind of like a Radiant, but he's not a
I
spread.
said it's not a Radiant.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You have to have a Spren and your own Spren sword.
But I think he's gonna get that sword to get the powers.
Okay.
I will go next. I am definitely in line with Ben, the
Okay.
assassin. So I am believing this is definitely going to come back later, and it's going to hurt Dalinar's kind of credibility, and it's going to become a pretty big roadblock later for their plans, the death of Sadeas. And then I think he is not going to become a Shardbearer. Or I'm not a Shardbearer. He's not going to become a Knights Radiant with a sprint.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna go the same way. I think that it's going to affect him a lot, and I think that Dalinar is going to potentially have to decide if he exiles Adolin, because that's going to be the only way to keep everything together.
That's
And I think that that's going to also result in him not being a Radiant.
I'm going to say that it's going to affect him a lot, but
He's going to become a Radiant.
I think he is going to become a Radiant because I feel like, especially through what we've read, the decisions are considered morale according to the individual, not other people's perspective.
That's true.
So he thinks he did the right thing. So I don't think it's going to affect him in terms of becoming a Radiant.
But that's only honor spren that really have those requirements. So I think
don't
the
know the
other
other
orders
We
could
don't-
be whatever.
We don't know what kind of spren might be attracted to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Just something to think about.
And then
Maybe Shallan's a spren, and there's gonna be multiple levels where her sword has a sword because Shallan is his spren.
I do have to say that Pattern kind of seems like he has a crush on Adolin.
He wants the D. Oh my god.
All right.
She's like, well, why don't you marry him? Is that
Here-
a possible? No.
All right, here's what I say, Jeff. I am going to be on your side as far as it not affecting the outcome that much. I think that either Shallan or Renarin both seem to be wise to the fact that Adolin is kind of troubled with this investigation. At the end of chapter 9, they're both kind of looking at him like they know something a little bit more than they're letting on. And I think that either Shallan or Renarin will help Adolin deal with his guilt. So I don't think it's going to become that big of an issue. So I'm with you on that point, Jeff.
All right.
But I'm going to go with Ben, Josh, and Brett. And that I don't think that he's going to become a Radiant necessarily. I don't have evidence one way or the other, but I'm just going to go that route for that side of the bet.
Okay.
yeah.
I feel like I agree with you, Andrew. I totally think that Renarin knows already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good point. We don't really
He's
know
a
what his
seer.
powers
Yeah,
are. Like, he's a seer. Did he see it happen? Did he see the past?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh. And his brother's like, you killed that guy.
Right.
I think he does know.
Oh,
He's
he
a-
knows.
he
But I think the consequences are going to come more not from
them.
them, but from Dalinar and the position that it's going to put Dalinar
but
in
after-
if people
Gotcha.
find out.
Let me
I
put
don't
it
think it's
this
going
way,
to
though.
weigh on him.
We're not going to talk about the end too much yet, but we know how it ends with, Shallan being a badass and basically figuring out what's doing the copycat
Right.
killings.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that, but not yet. But at the same time, I think that Shallan kind of knows that doesn't account for the first deaths in anything. Mm-hmm. And if she does find out, she'll be the only one who can find that out, besides who already knows, which is his brother. And she's going to cover for his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She ain't going to give that up.
She's going to be like, he's kind of like me.
And
Yeah,
they could
exactly.
literally
Relatable.
could pin that murder on that the Night Mother or
Yeah.
whatever it was.
Yeah.
So,
Ooh.
I mean, like,
Good point.
I talk about getting it out, literally.
But you also have to keep in mind the fact that Kalinin kind of seems to be like, what is it?
He's honor, not justice, and he clarifies in his mind that it is dependent upon your perspective. And I honestly think that Kaladin's perspective will align with
But-
Adolin's in this.
The thing is, like, he was in town when that happened, right? No? He already left?
Oh.
He had already left, yeah.
So, he has no idea any of this happened. Once you find out he's dead, I don't think he's going to even look into it, because he won't care.
Oh, Sadis is dead?
Yeah.
Good.
So,
Oh, the guy that made me in Bridgman? Okay, fuck him.
yeah.
it's like, let's have a party.
Yeah. Okay. All right, dude. That's a good Brett bet, and it's an intense one because this
Right.
could be like big repercussions. So I don't know what you guys think. I was gonna take just a shot of whatever I wanted, like for that should be everyone's. But if you get half and half, maybe you do half.
No, those are two different
I say
bets.
all or nothing or two different bets.
Those are two different bets.
Your call. All or nothing, or
Two different bets.
Two different bets.
Yeah, that's fine.
You got it, Captain.
Got it. It's in the
All right.
record books.
You got it. Captured. Captain. Captured. Boop. All right.
Right. So when are we going to talk about Dalinar and his
In
younger
his
days?
past, that's what I was just gonna do next. And I was
Oh, you mean
so
the
much,
Blackthorn? When are we
Yeah.
talking about the Blackthorn?
Dude, I want to tell you
man.
guys something. So I was doing my notes in the car when I was driving, and I tried to use Siri to take this note, and I'm like, Dalinar in his past is brutal, something like I had a sentence, and then it came out, Dam's at past, brutal and great now shot.
That sounds like you.
It
Sounds
knows
like
we
a-
want
It
to
sounds
break.
like your text messages.
It had to do with Dalinar being a brutal beast, his attitude as a young man versus now.
Shot.
And also how often, I'll tell you what the shot's about too, and how often Dalinar gives in to the thirst or
The
The
thrill.
thrill.
The thrill,
But-
yes.
the thing about Dalanar despises most, I knew he was like super like warrior in the back in the day, and
Right.
he was like, I didn't realize he was so vicious, and also it seems less intelligent.
He's not. He
He
just
seems
doesn't
that way.
think.
Yeah,
I
he's
think he gives in to the thrill. It's almost like Alethi or berserkers.
Well, that
Right.
and he's like uncaring about anything but the better. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't think outside.
Well, so they
and it
talk.
just surprised me about how different it is.
Well, that's
from
why I
now.
kind of felt like when I was reading it, I kind of felt like, man, it almost seems like Dalinar is like part Pershendi. Like he has different forms. Like this seems like a completely different person. You know,
The way that it was
kind of like how Esha and I
described,
was
yeah.
like completely different.
He
when she was
seemed
in-
like a warrior, like
Yeah.
glorified, like really strong, good, awesome guy.
Yeah.
But this makes him look like such a.
A beast.
just
He was like
just
killing
yeah.
even his own
Yeah,
men on accident in
yeah.
the thrill and lust.
I want to
bloodlust.
bring.
I
something-
understand why he like doesn't like thinking about his past now.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to bring
it
something
was
up. Oh,
it
go
was
ahead, Captain.
33 years ago, so that's plenty of time for a person to change.
That
And it
is
was
true.
shocking that Dalinar was so bloodthirsty, but and in one of the chapters we get to see how he wins his shard blade, and it's kind of glossed over, but it's basically stated that Dalinar kills an entire family to get a shard blade, and after that scene, there is a sense of like emptiness and remorse for it. He still did it, which is terrible. But and
Right before when he
despicable,
had
but-
the thought of killing his brother.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
That was later.
yeah.
That was the thrill, though, too.
Yeah.
right.
And the thing is, what Andrew said, like, he didn't have to kill his son and his wife. He could have just picked up the blade and left them.
No, but the thing is,
But he killed them. And
But
even
Gavilar wanted to make sure that they didn't have an heir.
no, Gavel was kind of like, you shouldn't have
You
killed
didn't
them.
need to kill the boy.
Did he say that? I thought
Because he's
later.
like, now it's gonna be really hard to get these people behind us.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember that now.
And like,
I thought it was like he wanted that, but now I'm
he
kind of
wanted
remembering that.
Yeah.
the guy dead, the king,
Not
the
kid,
prince.
though.
But he didn't say like the song was like, that was a little too much. He didn't say that.
So I want to bring
Well, he kind of
something up though,
implied it,
real quick. Something that
I
we've
thought.
kind of glossed over while Manny's checking. Something really cool that I think because when we start the story, are kind of in the future. Well, compared to these past, I guess we are in the future. But the Alethi people, we talked about how warmongering and like their kind of personality, and I think that between the Edge Dancer and these chapters, they talk about the thrill a lot.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
thrill is an Alethi advantage. It's literally like Alethi are a type of people that have a special bond with this quote-unquote thrill. In an Edge Dancer, they talk about the thrill. Actually, at the end of the second book, at the end of Words of Radiance in Taravangian's chapter, he talks about the thrill coming from the power of a spren.
Right.
That's what
And
I actually honestly think that the thrill is going to be something similar, a broken piece of odium similar to what Shallan fights.
the ancient, what are they called? They're like the
left or
the
whatever.
leftovers. Or
No, not the
Yeah.
leftover, but the like abandoned or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
sure.
they have a title. We'll check that next too. But I think the thrill comes from one of those evil spren, and like Alethi specifically, it must be in their area. They're literally berserkers.
But I feel like that's not true because
They could fight.
in the story, Dalinar says that the guy that he's fighting to get Oathbringer has the same stare like of the thrill.
They're both Alethi.
That guy I didn't think was a lefty.
They're
They're
Yeah.
fighting
That was
To
one of the
unify
places.
Alethia.
My bad.
And so that's crazy because and then Dalinar actually gets jealous like
That the other guy
you're
has the
taking
thrill,
the
too.
thrill too.
But
Right.
we also got to
Right.
think, though, I don't think it's just... I think it just spends more time, or it affects the Alethi more, because in one of the actual sections, Taravangian talks, or during
He
one of
talks
the
about the
Taravangian,
thrill, too,
during
yeah.
the battle that they were having in Yakavid,
Yakaved.
they were talking about how the thrill abandoned the people there, but it was there initially.
It
So-
seems like it's location to a
Was that
spren
in the
maybe.
book or the adventure?
Theory?
It was in the book. It was
Is
the
that
end
a
of the
Brett
last
bet or
book.
should we leave it just as a theory?
What's that?
Theory.
That I think the thrill is based on a spren and the strength of it is based on the spren's location.
Interesting. I think it's just a racial perk, as all of you D&D
Select your
fans
Alethi
would,
and
would,
get your
would
berserker
say.
abilities. It's kind of like having a barbarian.
You
Right.
can't really see a Clear Lake person running around with a thrill.
Yeah.
No.
But also, I don't think we've had any better perspective besides anyone but the Alethi and
That's
maybe
true.
the Posendi. I can't remember. If
Mostly they don't talk about the thrill though. They've in the perspective of the Parshendi, they were always fighting, but they use songs.
the song,
Right.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen anyone.
But was
outside
there
of
a
it.
little bit of that thrill when they were in the like newly discovered war form or whatever?
Oh, that's right. They
She
had
was kind of like a little bit like, did you know that this was going to happen to me? She was like kind of bloodlusty as well.
Right.
I still feel that might be a side effect of the form itself. That's why they
Right.
call
Well,
it war form. But maybe it is more
not the
open
wolf
to
form
this.
or the other form.
Storm form.
Oh, was it
Storm form
Yeah,
is
storm
straight up the odium spren
In them.
That's what
yeah.
he's saying. Is that what
Similar to the thrill.
Is that
Oh.
is
Storm
that
form.
when she got bloodlusty? Was it
Yeah.
storm form or
Yeah,
was it the
storm
one?
form.
Okay,
But she was
so-
like crying inside. It was almost
Well,
like it wasn't her.
So that's kind
Yeah.
of evidence for it being spren based. The lust or whatever,
Yeah.
the bloodlust.
But yeah, that's
or the thrill.
Oathbringers though, and I don't know if that carries over to the more human types.
Yeah.
Well, interesting enough, but Dalinar, it's kind of cool because we get to go through his progression from seriously crazy bloodlust maniac to kind of
Wizened old
more
man
wizened
almost.
old man.
Yeah.
I do want to point out that the one thing great now shot was about the bowman that almost killed him.
In both.
And then he recruited him.
Oh yeah.
That was what I was trying to talk about.
I
And
totally thought I was gonna kill him right then, and it's like, nope, you're gonna be in my team now.
Yeah.
He didn't even give
Yeah.
him the option to be. Well, he's like, I guess you could just die if you
Yeah.
want to fight against it. But he took it almost like for granted that the guy was gonna be. You're now part of the team. Just
But
like you don't really have a choice.
Again, though, everyone, see, it was really interesting because everyone always talked about, especially the king, Elokar is always like, Uncle, you always just did whatever you wanted, like, took whoever you wanted, just did. And we get to see here, he's just like, Bowman, good, you're in my team. What? You're killing all my people. He's like, I'll stop killing them if you join my team.
It's like, I won't loot this village.
Yeah.
It's just like he just has this force about him even when he's bloodthirsty. But I thought that was cool because you get to see a little bit of the seed of what might become a Dalinar of the future in that
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
I also thought it was
Yeah.
funny how Sadius was like, "Oh man, I was really
Nope.
looking forward to that tonight."
Yeah, they had a line of women waiting for him.
Especially when you think about how Sadius is constantly described as being kind of, well, let's put it this way. We all have robotic armor that makes exercising useless.
Yeah.
If you want it to be useless. He's just gonna... Nope, he's not, And that was a problem for him when he got stabbed in the eye. Because Kalinin does exercise outside of his armor. Yeah, so, anyway. So I'm just kind of going through notes. So chime in if you want anything, guys. But I think the next thing we get to is Kalinin going home.
Well, before we cross over there, let's
Okay.
talk a little bit about how, continuing with Dalinar, part of what we start to learn is about his actual wife.
Wait, nope. I want to go there when he breaks that bond. Do you want to you want to do it now? We can do it now, actually. Let's do it.
Whenever.
All right. Cherry says we do it. We're doing it. Okay. So I was going to save it for a little bit later, just because I was going in there. But the Cherry brings up an awesome point. Dalinar, so while he's sparring in a sparring rink, he realizes he's kind of an old man. He was sparring one of the best wrestlers, and he was looking to just kind of get some aggression out. Yeah. And then he starts using Stormlight, and he sticks.
Well, he starts fighting one of the Ardents, one
That's
of
what
his
he
old
did. Yeah, that's what he did.
ex-elites, and they have a conversation while they're sparring. They're kind of talking about how Dalinar's breaking away from the church and is pretty much a heretic at this point. And he's like, how do I continue following you? And he's trying to say, well, how do you not question your religion? And during the fight, he ends up at the very end taking Stormlight in.
Yeah, he wants to make it known to all his soldiers that his position on the church, because they all hear this, and he sticks a guy to the ground and then draws in Stormlight and makes this big speech. And then at the same time, Navani is trying to negotiate to the queen of
the rays.
the
Thalens?
Thalen,
With the
that's it,
eyebrow
with the
people?
eyebrows, yeah, and the eyebrow people, and she seems kind of like a badass in a way, kind of funny, angsty
cool.
queen. Yeah. But when Dalinar does that, he gets done, and Navani says his wife's name, and he hears it,
Right.
And he's like,
Yeah.
what? Say that again. And she says it, and then a memory like kind of hits him. And so not only do we get to go in Dalinar's past and learn about his bloodthirsty, I think we're also going to get to learn more and more about Adolin and Renarin's mommy.
I think this could be a good option for a Brett bet too, because I have a bit of a theory on when I'd like to propose a Brett bet on how does he, or what's the cause of him being able to remember his wife now. So I think they try and do a little bit of misdirection and lead you to believe it's almost a healing from the Stormlight or an effect of being like a Radiant, but we do get confirmation that it's not from the Stormfather. He didn't do anything to that. But I think that one of the things we learned during the past, or actually I think it's more one of the more recent ones, he confirms that his boon to the old gods was to remove the pain. And I think he's maturing to a point, and he's in a relationship now where he finally, that those memories won't pain him anymore. So even learning about them now. So I think that's maybe that's a Brett bet if people have other theories on how they think he actually overcame the old god or why he's able to remember his wife, not the old magic.
But my theory was very similar to yours. Wasn't as well thought out actually. It's just once he married Navani, like kind of moved him past that bet. Like I want. How did I have it described in my mind? I can't think of how to describe it. So move on.
The next question though is, so those are supposed to be lifelong. Remove the pain. Yeah. If that was the boon, or we actually thought it might have been the curse, because we thought he confirmed it was the curse because he knows the boon.
Well, he knows both.
But he never confirmed what the boon was. He only confirmed.
But
he only confirmed.
No. I think the boon is to remove the pain. Yeah. The curse is he can't remember his wife. But that was that might be the same. I don't know.
Because I feel like if the boon was to remove the pain, and this is a good Brett bet, because I feel like if the boon is to remove the pain, then the curse has to be something else. So and it's lifelong. So if the pain no longer is there, where is the pain going to come from that's going to be removed later? And then what is the curse? How does the curse change to impact him? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of interesting. It's got to adapt because it's supposed to go, at least all cases go from the time that you make the deal to
the
death.
end of your life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So anyway.
I did find the scene in which they kill the boy. And Gavilar just says, there won't be an easy crowd to make follow us because you killed our High Lord and his heir. He didn't really show disappointment in it. In fact, he just, beginning of the conversation is congratulations. Sad he is sad he didn't do it.
Yeah.
Well, he said he didn't get the Strawblade, so he's mean.
Yeah.
Not that he didn't kill the son.
Right.
But he doesn't talk bad about him killing the son.
Well,
he was talking about the people, how it's going to be hard for them to be controlled because he killed the heir and their High Lord. But it wasn't like disappointment at all.
I don't know. I think it's the saying that it's going to be hard to control them. It would have been better to leave the heir alive.
But then he says, make them soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the long run, it doesn't matter for them.
Yeah, that's
but
crazy,
it's the saying.
That's
an easier
dark
path
shit.
was close to them. Like it's not a big deal to him, but it's like might have been better to do it the other way.
All right, guys.
But
do you want to take a Brett bet on that one?
I don't know. That's a really good conversation, though. And I don't know if I think that the boon was getting rid of pain.
I don't know if I
think the curse is definitely losing memories of
his wife. So why did it break then?
I don't know.
know.
The boon.
All right, so maybe that's how we make the Brett bet. If you want to do one, if you guys want to, it could be, was the boon to remove pain?
Or was that the curse?
Or
was it nothing?
All right.
But yeah.
I don't know. If I'll leave that to Cherry because he's orchestrating this one. So,
yeah, let's do that. We'll do a Brett bet on is the boon from the old magic to remove the pain.
Okay.
Manny,
you first.
No.
Ben.
I think the boon was to remove the memories of his wife, so to remove the pain.
Okay.
That's fair.
Yep, and I'll stay with my same theory that the boon was to remove the pain. I think the memories may be a consequence of the boon, but the reason it's coming back is now because he wouldn't have that same pain anymore. So there's no longer a need for that.
So what's the curse then?
Man, I don't know how I feel about this. There's just too many possibilities, and I haven't had long enough to think about it. So I'm gonna say that that his boon was not to remove the pain, but I'm really not sure about that.
So your answer is no.
No.
I'm also going to say that. I think it's not clean enough. And when I say not clean enough, I don't mean that it necessarily needs to be so perfect, but to remove the pain, I think that if the boon goes away or the boon changes, the curse has to change too. And so I can't accept it until there's evidence of that happening as well. The boon and the curse are synced in a way, and I think they have to change. So I'm going to say no, just for fun.
I think to kind of clarify this bet, we're saying that the loss of the memory of his wife is a boon or a curse, correct?
No, I think the exact wording of it was his boon, was what he asked for to take the pain away.
Okay.
And we're kind of just commenting on the other things that kind of revolve around that.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm saying no.
I'll say no then as well. So we've got Manny, Brett, Jeff, and myself for no, and then that the boon was the loss of memory is Ben and Josh.
Mm-hmm. The boon to get rid of the pain.
Right.
Yeah, not necessarily the loss of memory.
The consequence
Okay.
of the curse.
Remove
was,
the pain.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, we've got it in the book.
So, Manny, did you give yours?
Yeah, I gave my answer already.
Okay,
I
alright.
said no.
So the reason that I'm like really kind of on the edge or on the fence about that is I'm not 100% sure that the pain is
The loss of his
the
wife.
loss of his wife. I'm not 100% convinced yet. I mean, we still have a long way to go before she dies, potentially. But I'm not really convinced that he really even cares too much that she died.
Yeah,
He already
he
loved
assumed it.
Navani before he met her.
Yeah.
Right.
He never wanted to marry her. It was strategic and political. And up to this point, we see no inkling of that changing, and he's still very bloodlusty.
I don't know if I agree with you. I
don't
think
know.
at the beginning, yes, he was not in love with her because he was in love with Navani and obsessed with her.
And he was just getting
But
married for political gain.
Something that made me think, like, oh, maybe he did start feeling like he loved this woman because he was super attracted to her blonde hair.
Uh-huh.
He was like, oh, she's so different. She's beautiful.
Right.
Kind of a deal. So I'm thinking that she helped him grow as an individual, definitely, because she was like, oh my gosh, the things that you do are so terrifying.
Right.
And helped him realize that his blackthorn ways.
So you think she's going to win him over?
Yeah, I think she definitely
that's
wins him over.
I think that's
I don't
possible.
think that the boon was to get rid of the pain, though. I think the boon had something else to do with something else. I don't know. I don't know exactly what. I have a lot of things in my mind. But then I have to think about, like, okay, Stormfather had people to choose who he showed memories to. Why did he choose Dalinar, considering his past? And then, like Jeff said, if the boon is supposed to follow you through life, why are the memories coming back? Or
There's a part of me, although I feel like there were parts in the beginning of the Way of Kings that I'm kind of forgetting that may go against this, but there's also a part of me that wonders if his boon was to get rid of the thrill. If he was kind of starting to not like that way of life, even though he couldn't control
I was
it.
kind of thinking around that too, because
Yeah.
he gets sick whenever he has the thrill now.
Right.
But he still gets the thrill.
But he still gets it, yeah.
Or was he getting sick because he was starting to develop a relationship with a true friend?
That's what I thought.
So, anyway.
Also,
One thing
yeah.
too, though, to kind of talk about in the book specifically, he said he assumed that he'd gone to the Night Watcher to be rid of the pain at losing her, and the Spren had taken his other memories as payment. He didn't know for certain, but that seemed right. So
I think he has no memory enough to make the right assumption.
So does he? So he could have
thinks
potentially been lying, or maybe just misinformed that he knows his boon and
Yes.
his curse.
He may
Maybe
be.
he doesn't
well, he
know
did,
him.
he states earlier that he knows what his boon and curse is, but here he makes it seem like he's pretty certain.
He's pretty
what his
certain,
boon-
yeah.
Because I think something to do with the boon, well, something to do with whatever he requested, made him lose memories of actually even doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
like going there. So.
All right.
Because Navani is like, hey, let me help you. Tell me what you remember. Oh, well, I don't.
Right. Exactly.
So, and then Navani even comments like, "Oh, it figures the Night Mother would, or whatever it is. They call it the Night
Night
Mother.
The old magic.
The Night
Night
Watcher.
Watcher.
The Night Mother was what
Shalana
fight.
Shalana
Sorry.
Tech, yeah.
So we got to move on though, because we got a lot to talk about still. So the next thing we got to talk about is Kalinin going the fuck home.
Oh.
Can we talk about his stay before we talk about his like return home? Like,
His-
oh, you're talking about return home to his like village.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right, shit, my bad.
You thought he meant his return home from home?
I thought it meant his return to Uruthiru.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not his home yet. It probably will be at some point, but dude,
My bad.
I got to tell you, when I was reading this part, I was getting super intense because they kept I know our chords. But the good news is it's not impacting our recording, just our hearing. So I was so like intense because first of all, he gets home and you find out that after a few hours of not using Stormlight or his shard blade, his eyes go back to brown. That was one thing that we noticed.
Right.
And obviously that was purposeful.
So if you're taking notes, first off, he went home.
and then secondly, it took forever for him to just jack that
Rashon.
light eyes in the face. And I love like the bill. I was like listening to it, and I remember I was like listening in the car, and then I got to work, and I'm like, son of a bitch, like it's gonna happen. I know it. I can feel it.
I like also how like after he did it, he was kind of like, nah, shouldn't have done that. But oh well.
But I don't know about you guys. So I was getting a little frustrated with how long he was taking to come out, but I loved it in terms of how it built the section of story, because he just kind of like sat there and acted like decimated, like almost like his parents needed to take care of him again and stuff.
And he
Who's
still has the
regressing.
sash or the slave brand on
Yeah.
his head.
Yeah.
So
It was just really
everyone
fun.
just looking at him like, oh, he's a deserter.
It was really funny though, because the guy was like poking him in the back with the mace, and he just like dodges and then just like jacks him on the ground like useless, and then he just stops. He doesn't go any further than that, and I just thought that whole reveal was pretty awesome.
I love this section too, and I may have already said this in an earlier episode, but I think it's such a rarity that a main character has figure parents in a fantasy story. I was so like appreciative of this section that Sanderson wrote, because his parents like have their own separate lives besides him. You know, he was their child. But at the very end of the chapter, it's revealed that their lives were kind of going on without him because they thought that Kalinin was dead.
Yeah.
So to kind of continue with their own lives and to keep hope alive, as they say, they had another kid, which was a big reveal at the end of that chapter. And from a fantasy, like, you know, from the fantasy genre, just putting parents in the story of a main character is something different that we don't usually see.
Normally they only put him in and then they just like
Kill him
get
off
killed,
immediately.
and that's why they want vengeance, or you know, like they're just not real people. But in this, you're right, Captain. You bring up a good point. They're kind of their own people, and his dad is doing what his dad does, saving people. You know, being political with the village, just trying to help things out, and you kind of get a sense of that. So
I'd also like to take a second to mourn the death of his now younger brother's self-esteem. It's like, oh, your older brother, not only did he rise from the dead, but he's a he's a Radiant. It's like, what? Come on, how am I supposed to keep up with that?
I think towards the end of that scene also is probably one of my favorite scenes so far in the book. Is well, not right now, but to that point was when he kind of announces that the Radiants are back, and so everyone's kind of like looking to him, and he's like, I have to go because I need to search for the Parchment, and he lashes himself up towards the ceiling and then also down a little bit, so he's hovering off the ground, and then he sucks in all the Stormlight and then starts hovering, lashes himself up, and then he's like, and pretty much like the glory spren show up around his mom and the like awe spren around everyone else, and then he just shoots out the door like I gotta go, and just boom,
Just like
it's
Neo
gone.
at the end of the
Yeah.
Matrix. It's up to you now. Click
out.
That's awesome.
It's like Superman.
I also really liked how he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna take you guys to safety," and his dad's like, "Dude,
No.
I'm a doctor. Get out of here.
Yeah.
This is my
Yeah.
job.
I know.
If this shit's really going on, this is
I need
what
to
I'm
be here.
doing."
Yeah.
I think this part of the story was actually really character recovering for me. Like Kalinin was like always like teeter-tottering between like, do I like him or not? 'Cause
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. He's so conflicted.
Yeah, he's
But,
been through a lot of growth.
Like, yeah, but like when he came back here and then realizing his thought process
Yeah.
and his interaction with Syl, and then even so with his father, and just coming to the realization of like everything that he's gone through and how poorly he dealt with a lot of it.
Yeah.
Like now he's kind of like, oh man, like
Yeah, so-
I'm in a much better place in my life now, and
Yeah,
I need to help.
I was gonna
maintain
ask
that.
if you guys felt like that him going back home was more character revealing, like growth revealing, or
Super growth.
or growth like enhancing, causing.
I
Like, do you
think it
think
was-
that the perspective made him grow even more, or do you
I
think
think
it
it-
just gave us a chance to see it?
I think it made him go more because it just confirmed his herald beliefs of you need to protect everyone,
Right.
even
not just the people you like.
his
Right,
lord
right.
that caused his brother to die.
Right.
Like he hit him, but it's like, I shouldn't
Shouldn't have done that.
because I need
But
to
he
protect
deserved
you.
it.
Yeah.
He deserved a punch.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
a punch, guys.
But yeah, he deserves
his
it.
nose.
He deserves
Yeah.
it a lot more, but
deserved
not
it.
from him. I mean,
A lot of these
Kaladin's
guys
like,
that
I'm gonna
should
protect
get
you
it
guys
deserve
and
it,
everyone,
but it doesn't
even
mean that they
if
should.
you wrong me in the past.
And his mindset was right because he realized taking Shoutouts going to do nothing but put the entire village into chaos.
Oh shit.
So it was
What an
really, really
idiot.
awesome.
Look at this guy.
What do you think? You're spinning a whiskey ball in there?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Now you
No,
guys
but-
can see how we're talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I think it really
Well,
helped him
man, he
out.
was drinking
Also-
that Horn Eater White, so
Horny
Yeah.
or what, baby?
But I think it really
That's
helped him
coming
out
next.
and move, put that behind him a little bit. Like not all the way. You can't just
Yeah.
forget about it. But
Yeah.
Agreed, Ben.
it's like moving past it a little.
He's
bit.
overcome it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're gonna change because that was pretty dope, and we know Kaladin's going off to chase down the Parchment, which he thinks are Voidbringers right now.
Really quick, 2 seconds. I
Oh,
just
sure.
want to give a shout out to my favorite part of this whole section, which
Okay.
was when he goes, "Why should I follow you?" And he just summons his blade, and I just loved that. I loved the image in my head. Anyway, go ahead.
And that's
When was
also
that?
interesting.
When was that?
When he was talking
Actually,
to
Rashon.
Rashon.
Actually,
Oh,
Rashon
yeah.
says, "Why do you think you could give me orders?"
And who
Yeah,
do you
that's-
think you
yeah.
are?
Yeah.
And he just does that. And then
Any other questions?
Yeah.
the funny thing about that scene too is that everyone goes wide-eyed, and then his dad does
It's like
a,
upset.
Oh.
yeah.
I just imagine like his mom in her head just being like,
But his dad's like, his dad's like, But anyway, it worked out though because his dad found out he's a Radiant, not the same kind of. Anyway,
right.
so we got to jump to Shallan now.
I think he did a really good job
Hold
with
on,
the dad
Jeff.
staying in character.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, his dad would have no idea all the stuff he went through,
Yeah.
and so he can't like.
Oh,
like,
it's
how would he
okay.
even connect to him at
Appreciate
this
it,
point,
yeah.
Exactly.
or understand what anything.
Yeah.
They don't
And
know
so
him
it's really
anymore.
good that he didn't be like, oh, you got trouble, yeah, you light-eyed.
Yeah.
No, he's like, no, killer.
He probably just killed it. Somebody. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
His
exactly.
dad's like, I don't
Awesome.
care what color eyes you are, brah.
Yeah.
But Jeff, should we do an episode break?
It is an hour.
Yeah, we're at the
actually,
hour marker.
We're
We're
do a
pretty
new
close.
character?
Yeah, man. We could take a break real quick and episode 1 of the Oathbringer, and then go into episode 2.
Yeah, part 1, part 2.
We'll go into episode 1, part 2.
Yeah.
Episode 1.
Well, you guys won't see it till next week, but
All right, folks. Again, this is Lit Literature. Thanks for joining us. We have still so much more to talk about.
Yes.
But this is fun. This is fun. This is fun. So, again, this is your host, the Demon. And from wherever the captain is, you can say it, Andrew. You're all over the place.
Oh, I'm just in Phoenix this time.
Oh, God, he teleported back to this world. Jesus Christ.
He is just reborn.
Right.
Even the dream across.
Yes, Manny. Aim the dream.
The hitman, who's not hitting right now, just Manning. Jerry.
I thought that was Manny's job.
And the director.
Brett, the director.
All right. See you, folks. Bye. Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Lit Literature. If you liked us, please check out our social media at Lit Literature 1 at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't hesitate to join in on the conversation. We appreciate the conversation, the questions, book recommendations, anything of that sort. Join in right on the social media websites. And don't forget to check us out at our website, litliterature.com, and our upcoming projects, though there aren't many now besides Lit Literature, you can find at lyket.net, Lyket. We do have a Patreon account, but if you truly want to support us, please like and share. Cheers.